too much to let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name. You break every chain, oh Lord.
All right, welcome to UCAN Studios. This is Spiritual Warfare Unit. I am your host, Isaac Walsh, and this is The Warrior's Way, and I'm here with Joe Olinger. Say good morning.
Good morning.
Before we get to Joe, if this is your first time and you know someone who is struggling, please tell them to go to ucanmichigan.com, click on struggling, and you will see that they have help for people struggling with drug addiction and mental health. And you just put your information in and someone will call you within the next 24 hours. If you know someone that's struggling with food or clothes or baby formula, please have them go to spiritualwarfareunit.com, click on struggling, and we have over 25 nonprofits there with direct links. And our videos, we interview the people that we're talking to, so if you're nervous about meeting them, you just go to our podcast, click on like and subscribe, get the interviews of the people we're talking to, and then get help or help someone who needs help. All right, Joe, how are we doing this morning?
Good, brother. How are you, man?
All right, so I have you on, and we met. Did we originally meet at yoga?
No, it wasn't at yoga. It was a lunch.
From AJ at Lucky.
Yeah. And Adam actually introduced us, and he's actually the assistant to the yoga instructor, right? Is that?
Yeah, the assistant. Yeah, so we have my section in yoga is the loud, annoying one that everyone wants to be quiet because I groan and I'm old and suck cricks and creaks among other bodily things that happen. Anyways,
it happened to me too.
Well, I'll just leave it this way. A trucker would have been proud of what happened to me in yoga, and I totally respect those ladies that can make their body go in a whole circle.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
stuff.
I couldn't. My Ross Perot came out. Not gonna do it. Just wouldn't be prudent, right? Oh man. Anyway, so we got to meeting, and you do motivational speaking, but what you do is kind of unique and cool. So just give everybody a real quick synopsis. This is your website right here, right? Pointofbreak.org, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right. So if you want to click on that while you're talking, but just kind of give people an overview of what you're doing.
Actually, what we do is we go into the public school system and we do motivational speaking. We talk about right choices, and primarily we use feats of strength to be able to convey our message. These physical illustrations to communicate, right choices and following the rules, seeing that you're special, value and worth, coping with anger. And so we address these through physical illustrations and also through live performance with music. All
right, so you bend things, you rip them in half to get their full and undivided attention.
Yes.
All right, that's cool. All right, that's cool. Now, that's the end of the story. I want to know how you got into this, so I need to know where you came. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a little coal mining town in Virginia, a very poor area. It's like 3,000 people, I think. It's not a whole lot of people. And grew up there with mom and dad. I mean, my mom and dad actually just passed away a couple of years ago, but they were married for 52, 53 years, and. But we were a poor family.
So what was growing up there like? Like, what was school? Like, everybody knew everybody?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. People knew each other's business and still do, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was awesome. But my mom and dad, they were very strong believers, though we didn't have a whole lot of money. God still was in the house.
So were you What was it like growing up? Were you a sports guy? Were you a school academic person? Were you band? What was your personality like?
Well, I was actually kind of the outcast guy, right? I was the.
Those are my faves. All right. Like you just were in that role, or like did you do something to get?
No, I actually, I really wanted to be around people growing up, but. I guess kids could be really mean because, I looked different. I acted different. I didn't have the clothes they thought I should have. And though I had friends in school.
You're the poor kid too?
Yeah.
Me too.
Poor man.
God.
Funny.
Oh, God. So you know how they have those like church closets or whatever?
Yeah.
I remember getting my first polo shirt, right? And it was a yellow one. And I go into school and I'm so proud of that polo shirt. And this kid was like, "Oh, nice shirt." I'm like, "Thanks."
Yep.
He's like, "Yeah, we donated that so the poor kids could have nice clothes." And
I got one better. I had one.
tell me.
So my neighbor's parents, me and her son were in the same grade.
Yeah.
They were well off, and we were a little bit more impoverished, and so they would donate his clothes to me. So we would go to school, and I remember I had this Bart Simpson sweatsuit that he gave it, and I wore it to school. And he, right in front of everybody, he goes, "Hey, how do you like that sweatsuit?" or something like that, or "I like your shirt." And I'm like, he goes, "Well, it was itching when I was wearing it, and all the kids were being, so it was hard,
Kids are so mean,
dude,
right?
It was like cutthroat. It's worse now, though. I mean, I'm sure.
I don't know, man. I think pretending to be nice, like the kids learn it from somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They just haven't learned to pretend to be nice,
Right,
which is almost worse in some ways.
It is. It's very deceiving. And
all right, so you're going up through high school. I know all of those things. I was, oh God, this is why I love you. I know those things, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
you end up being a bully fighter because you get picked on all the time,
Right.
And I understand that. All right, so going into high school, like, how was your grades? Were you like academically good? Or?
I really struggled all the way through school. Even a little bit back to middle school, even I really started noticing that I was different than the other kids because I had a learning disorder. I wasn't diagnosed, but it was obvious. My teachers were talking to my parents, and I remember even in the 4th grade that I was struggling, and I would get excited if I got a 40 on a test because I knew I did my best, and kids would tease me and make fun of me, but I was really proud of it. And I had, a mentor of mine, and I don't really like to use their name because I do love them and respect them still. But a mentor of mine, after I failed another test, looked down at me and said, "What are you, stupid or something?"
Ooh.
And Joe, you're just another throwaway. And so I took that. In the schools, a lot of times we talk about the power of our words, that we have the ability to build others up, or we have the ability to tear others down.
Right. Hold on before you get.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Because because going through a scenario when I was growing up, it was like, well, you better be a hard worker because you're stupid. That was the sentence where you're just like, oh my God, I'm retarded.
Right.
I'm dumb. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, what did that do to you? Like,
it was crippling, really, because it made me feel like I was a mistake. I mean, growing up even in a Christian home, I was like, God made a mistake when he made Joe, you know what I mean? And I became very closed off.
Yeah.
I was good at pretending that everything was okay. So a lot of people, maybe on the outside, further away, thought everything was all right.
Yeah.
But deep down, I mean, I was struggling. Even through high school, you'd mentioned high school.
Yeah.
I remember I did get on the honor roll later on in high school, but only because they were literally just throwing the easiest possible classes at me so that I would pass.
But I mean, how did you deal with, like, especially as a teenager? Gosh, those are rough years, right?
Yeah.
The depression and the isolation and not being invited to the parties and like, that's my experience. You know what I mean? Like, how did you deal with that stuff?
I didn't necessarily care so much about the parties and all that stuff because I didn't like anybody. By the time I got to high school, I was so
you'd hone that into a nice hate.
Yeah,
I already had it.
absolutely hated people. I had those few select friends, man, in school, and when they weren't around, man, I was just like.
And was it built from all that just teasing
Absolutely.
and belittling and?
Yeah, it was a combination. And it's, something, again, in the schools we talk about is the importance of not bottling things up on the inside of you. Because eventually...
You're making a bomb.
you're going to blow up one day. And not only potentially hurt yourself, but you can hurt those around you.
Yeah, creating an emotional bomb is going to blow up on the person that didn't make it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so we really encourage students, everybody feels angry, right?
Yeah.
Emotions are natural. We feel all these things. But it's when we act on those emotions that become an issue. So that's why it's important not do what I did and just bottle it up inside, but find people to talk to.
Absolutely.
You got to release like a pop-off valve on a water heater, right? You got to release that pressure.
Yeah, and the fact that, I knew there was something there, right? And becoming a kid, I ended up becoming a bully fighter. Like, you didn't want to do it the way I did either. I went into the military, and then they focused that rage into a 5-point, and then you're like, yo, get over here, And I didn't do it right either, but I didn't have anybody to show me how to do it right.
Right.
And like I said, well, you're stupid, so you better work hard.
Right.
But the thing was that I wasn't unintelligent.
Right.
It was just boring.
Right.
Like, I remember going to class, and I'm sitting there looking at this stuff going, I actually don't want to do this because it's too dumb.
Right.
Right. And then one of the reasons why I'm in chess, because those complex thought processes make a whole lot of sense to me, right? And so that's interesting. It's just interesting.
It is.
Right. Anyways, so you go through high school. You graduated what year?
And 99.
1999.
Supposed to be
when the world ended, and wasn't there a computer something?
Y2K.
Y2K, yeah. We were all going to die because the computers are going to shut off at 0 or something, and we're going to lose all the data or something.
My attitude was, unfortunately, I made it. That was kind of what
I did it.
Come on.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. All right. So you graduate high school in '99, and then what was like the next step or whatever?
Well, I really didn't have any plans at that point. That I would kind of go into my story a little bit more. But after school, I didn't really pursue education because I hated education at the time, and so. But kind of at the tail end of things, when I first started Point of Break, I started to go around with a buddy of mine, and we just focused on. We would find kids just hanging out in parking lots.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You jumped there. I don't understand. You started this right after high school?
Yeah. It was probably.
How did you do that? There's like 17 questions.
Yeah.
Like, you just decided, I was bullied, I'm going to start an what gave you the idea? Where did it come from?
Well, ultimately, what happened was I was a big fan of the Power Team. They were kind of an anti-bullying group, Christian group these guys would break bricks and
those are the dudes that were on Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Them big, huge guys.
Yeah, and so
so you saw that and said, "Hey, me and you can do that."
Yeah, but here's the thing: when I graduated high school, I was 120 pounds soaking wet.
I'm the mental picture like that's. I'm like. You're like, those dudes are like 290, and you're $120.
Yeah.
All right, listen. I want to hear all of this, but we already have to go to our first break.
Okay.
So this is your first time. Please check out pointofbreak.org. Like, share, and subscribe. Spiritual Warfare Unit. Sit tight. We will be right back. Taking a quick break from our podcast, I wanted to let you know about our life application program that we have for churches and nonprofits in the area that are trying to find programming that they can use in case the corona shuts you down and you're not able to get in. You go to spiritualwarfareunit.com. You click on our episodes, and you can check out our programs for as little as $29.99 a month to make sure that we're still getting the word out to those people that need it. Now, back to the program. All right, welcome back. So we are here with Joe, and he's from pointofbreak.org. You check his stuff out. So you're sitting there, well, you must have been 18, 19?
Yeah, I was about closer to 19 years old.
All right, so you're 19 years old. You're $120 watching the gorillas rip those giant phone books in half and the change and the handcuffs. Right? Those are little.
Those are little phone books.
All right, so they were huge. And I remember, I saw them. And so you're at 19 and you weighed 120 pounds and you're like, that's what I want to do.
Well, there was definitely a lot that kind of led up to that point because, not to kind of get into too much of what happened with, kind of that tail end before my kind of life-changing experience with Christ. But I went to a Point of Break, or not Point of Break, I'm just saying my name. I went to a Power Team crusade that came into our town.
Oh, okay.
And so there was.
So you got to meet those dudes?
Yeah.
All right. So how big were they?
They were huge. They were huge.
Okay.
And so actually, the guy that I talked to, I believe his name was Mike. His name was Mike.
Okay.
And big dude, man, big defensive lineman. He comes up to me and I'm like, hey, I feel like the Lord is leading me to this.
Yeah.
And he takes a step back and he looks at me and he goes, I think I'd pray about it first. He literally said that to me.
At 120
At 120 pounds.
Yeah.
But what kind of led me up that, I had a martial art background. I was a martial arts instructor for a few years.
Wow.
I got my black belt when I was 14.
Wow.
Second degree black belt when I was 16. And so
Okay.
I was very familiar with the breaking aspects. I just, couldn't bench press more than a bar at the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just started training. I remember walking in the gym, and I remember the first time this guy, I don't know if you remember those guys off Saturday Night Live, the two guys in the
Hans and Franz?
Oh, yeah, it's like,
we're here to pump you up. Yeah.
a guy that looked exactly like them met me at the door. So this guy goes, all right, so this is what you do. He goes, start at the machines, do this for about a week. And so he's like maxing out all the machines, seeing if I can move them. I couldn't move anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, work on these machines until you can do them, until after you do that, then you can go into the free weight room.
That's not how that's.
So I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to go to the free weight room, And so I go there and I see this dude banging his head against the squat rack. He's got all these rings and piercings. Looked like he had this fish and chip gone wrong. He's had all these cuts so bad. And so he's like squatting, the stuff, blood coming out of his nose. You know what I mean?
What?
I'm like walking
That's
around.
your first experience?
My first experience at the gym. And so I walk around and I see these.
Just for the record, that's not normal.
It's not normal.
No.
But,
So you're walking around the racks.
I'm walking around and I see the biggest dumbbells being curled by these huge biceps, and she turns around and looks at me. I'm scared to death at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe this is not a good idea.
Right.
So
She turns around.
she turns around, dude. She had some guns. She was so crazy.
Time to go. Wow. So what did you do?
I was like, you know what?
You're like, hey, guys.
Exactly. So I go in the corner with my pink dumbbells and I start training.
Yeah.
So, but I started training and I started kind of picking up things from some of those people, and and then there were some that were bodybuilders and power lifters, and they were telling me kind of an idea of what to do, and so I was watching. I don't know if you remember those off ESPN, the Flex Magazine workouts. And stuff that they used to do.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from watching them. So I kind of applied it, and so I started looking at the different actual feats of strength, the breaking aspects, the breaking bricks. I could already do that stuff because I was in martial arts.
Yeah.
But the bending the bar and the exploding of the soft drinks and stuff I couldn't do. So I would look and I would mimic the motion. And I would find out what muscle I would need to really train for.
Yeah.
And so I would really work that muscle until I felt like I could really, engage and really get
Because I feel like
enough
your forearms would have to be just iron.
Dude, it's well,
Like
they,
your
they hurt right
finger.
now. They're like Jello, but
Like your fingers would just have to be like
metal.
because those 2 liters.
Yeah.
They squeeze it till it explodes.
well, no,
Or
it's actually the cans. Yeah, you squeeze them until they explode.
You squeeze a pop can till it
Yeah.
explodes.
Yeah, that's
You squeeze a pop can till it explodes.
yes.
I didn't even know you could do that.
I didn't either until I squeezed them. It started working out, and then it.
Okay, so how long did it take? Because you said you were 120. I got to
120.
imagine you had to put on 70 pounds of muscle.
It was about in a year's time. I put on about 100 pounds.
In a year.
So I went
natural?
from 120, absolutely natural. It was funny because people thought I was on steroids at first.
Well,
because-
100 pounds in 12
Yeah.
months, that's 12 pounds.
But it wasn't
Carry
necessarily
the
all
3.
good weight.
Math is hard.
I was as round as I was tall, you know what I mean? But it was just,
I got you. You must have been eating like a horse, dude. Oh my lord.
It was insane. I would be eating all the time, but I started training, and I fell in love with the training, and so I started into powerlifting, and I started, I went from, benching 120 to benching 465.
465 in how long?
Well, that did take a little while. I was in probably my mid-20s when I
So
hit
like
about
5 or
4,
6 years.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
I mean, if you'd told me a year, I'm like, okay,
No.
steroids.
It wasn't steroids. It was my vitamin, candy water.
Candy water. All water looks white. All right, so you're doing this. All right, so like how long before you started? From the time you started lifting till you were able to blow a can up and go on stage? Like
Well, it was funny because it was almost in real time because I was, as I was training, I had a buddy that would, he would invite me out to meet these local students that were, back in the day when you were carpooling, you were sitting on the tailgating and you could sit at Walmart parking lot or whatever. And so we would go around at 1:00 in the morning and we would travel around and we would just like find a group of kids and say, hey, come over here for a second, rip a phone book for them or, snap a baseball bat or something. And then
no kidding, you were that. Hold on, you snapped. All right. Is there any video of this?
Yeah. There's actually videos on my website.
Because afterwards, I just want to see you blown up, Ken, because I want to see how much of it gets on your face. That's all I poof!
Here's the thing. I did bring a few things, just in case. I'm not saying we have to, but just in case, I did bring a
We're
book.
going to have to, but I got to get your story because I just want to see that because it's cool. All right, okay, so you were so passionate about this. You were just trying to find kids to show and say, hey, God loves you. Let me show you something. You don't have to be bullied. You can make it.
For sure.
Here's my story. And you already had a story from the beginning.
Yeah.
Man, that's super cool. All right, so you're in your 20s. So what happens next?
So, kind of going back to that part where we're going out on the street, I remember this one particular time because in this, God humbled me a lot. During this time, because I remember times where I had a whole stage full of bricks and nothing broke. I caught myself on fire, you know what I mean? Because I was lighting bricks.
What? No, you don't get to just say that. What caught yourself on fire?
Well, what we do also is sometimes we'll light bricks on fire and jump in this inferno and just break our way out.
You jump into a fire.
Yeah, it's just like bricks that are on fire around me, and I jump in. I don't.
You say it like you just ordered some, like a taco.
Well, I've been doing this for like 23 years, so I guess that's why.
That is like ordering.
It's like, it's like a taco,
Yeah, it's like an oven that you cook a flat pizza in, but I just blow it up.
Yeah, it is. And so what?
I love that that's part of your life. Okay, sorry. So you caught yourself on fire.
Yeah.
The bricks obviously didn't break.
No, the bricks didn't break, and apparently I had some Coleman fuel that dropped on my leg. And
so what did you do?
I'm running around like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And the person, instead of using the fire extinguisher to put me out, they're spraying the bricks off, and I'm smacking my pants. I'm like, dude. And I'm like running around, these kids laughing at me. So,
hold on. Here's my mental picture. The guy spraying the Oh, sorry.
Fan in the flame.
Oh, my Lord. Did you get, seriously burned? Or?
Fortunately not. No, it definitely, but it definitely could have ended badly. Sure. I didn't have any hair on my arms for a while.
So do you do, the handcuff thing?
I've not done handcuffs in a very, very long time just because
I feel like that would hurt your wrist.
It hurts. Yeah. I have a buddy that he used to do it all the time, and he's got these permanent indentions in his wrist because of it. So I'm just like, I could get the point across without, breaking my wrist. So.
All right. So when was the first time that you did it and you're like, okay, I know this is what I want to do? What was that moment?
It was actually one of those encounters on the street. I remember a buddy of mine, we found 3 groups of young people. And so there were these 2 groups that were wanting to really listen to us. My buddy's Paul Kilgore, by the way. And He was
his last name is Kilgore.
Kilgore.
That's perfect. Okay, go ahead.
So
sounds like a sweetheart. All right, so you and Paul, 2 groups.
So now he was the speaker. He would speak. I did not speak at all. I hated it. I just broke the stuff, sat down.
Yeah.
And so he was like, "Why don't you just share your story?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I get up, and these 2 groups were really attentive. But then this other group, they were screaming at us, profanity, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the 2 groups, they were saying, you know what, you don't want anything to do with that group over there. They're just violent and drugs and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked at Paul and I said, that's the group I want.
Yeah.
And so here we are. They're yelling at us. And I was going to share my story. I had this beautiful presentation ready to present, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me. And I felt the Lord tell me, rip the phone book first. I'm like, what? No, it's going to mess everything up,
Yeah.
And so I just went ahead and I'm like, okay. And it was the easiest phone book I've ever torn in my life. I looked over, these kids jumped over the cars. I had a baseball bat. My buddy had a chain. I thought we were going to have to use them because these kids were violently running at us.
Wow.
And every single one of them lined up on the sidewalk, sat down on the sidewalk, and didn't say another word.
That's all it took.
And shared my story. There was one young lady I found out she was on 9 different narcotics, trying to kill herself. She was so messed up. But when we shared Christ, I shared my story, she wept, and we sat and we prayed with her.
Nice.
So that was when I thought, there's something here.
And you were how old?
I was
when that
about,
happened?
I would say 19 years old.
All right, so that happened super early.
It did.
It? So
did.
you knew that you knew that you knew. You're like, this is the thing.
People thought I was crazy, man. They're like,
Of course, it's always crazy until it works, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So how did you transgress from that point? What was the next step after that? So you're doing this for kids in the area, and then what happened?
Yeah. So what happened was I started kind of, perfecting the program a little bit, kind of like, actually writing out a program, like what this is going to mean.
Like a show.
Right, a show, exactly. Yeah. And so that way I also had an idea of how long it would be so I could present that to the schools.
Right.
And so my idea was, I wanted to be, even though that I had a strong upbringing, my parents loved me. I loved them. But, there's something about having that outside person impact your life.
Right.
And I wanted to be that outside person for someone else.
Right.
And so I started perfecting it a little bit, and I started doing local programs for schools and boys and girls clubs. We do a lot for the boys and girls clubs. And I just started kind of reaching out. And long story short, I connected with another program that's like mine, but they were further along, established. And so, here I am.
Like, how'd you get connected with them?
I just I did an internet search, and I reached out to them.
Okay.
And so I reached out to them, and it was so funny because, man, I was like, I can bench press, heavyweight. I can do this. I'm a lot bigger than I used to be. So I get connected with these guys, and then I end up being the smallest guy on the team again.
No kidding.
So these guys
and you
were
said you were
290.
benching 465
was my absolute.
And you were the
best.
littlest dude.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: 465 is not a lot of weight on that team.
Yeah, he says that. I gotta go to break. My manhood has just been broken. Please sit tight. Check out the website. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Aaron with UCAN. We're out here at our 3rd annual golf outing here in the Genesee Valley Meadows. So, really good day. We have a great number of teams, great sponsorship, great people. We're hoping for a great time. The weather's good. So, we appreciate all the support we get at all of our events. It helps us fight the fight that we fight. So, thank you all. Stay the course.
It's a lot of fun with a good cause. This is a very good cause, and I enjoy doing it. And my sons are with me today, and we're just going to have fun. We know we're not going to win, but we're going to have fun.
Oh, today is an awesome day today. This is our 4th or 5th one here, and can't thank UCAN enough for what they do, especially on this situation where they have this outing. Mark and Debbie and all of them. It's just an amazing outing, and I couldn't think of it brings back memories, but it's a wonderful thing, and we really appreciate it.
Welcome back to the Warriors Way UCAN Studios. I am your host, Isaac Walsh, and I'm here with Joe Olinger. And he was just telling us how the little fella was only benching 465. And you hooked up with them, and so you meet these juggernauts.
Yeah, dude.
And what happens?
Long story short, I ended up kind of joining them full time. I moved from Virginia to Michigan. And this happened, within a 5-year period. It wasn't just a spur of the moment decision, because there was a lot happening.
Right.
And it seemed like that, that God kind of brings you into those places in your life where he's asking you to step out in faith in the worst times possible. Usually, my sister had been just diagnosed with cancer. A couple of years in her battle, and she was in the hospital for about a year. And so she ended up coming back to live with my parents. And my parents are older. My mom had COPD. My dad had a lot of issues. And the Lord said, all right, it's time. And I'm like, really? I mean, this is like the worst time possible.
Yeah. Leave while everybody's struggling.
Yeah. And so a lot of people kind of cast some stones there on me, but I started to think about when, in scripture it says, unless you hate your father and mother, you cannot be my disciple. And so I took that and, I never really understood that passage until now. And now it's like, even though that I love my family, my love for God is so much more. Yeah. In comparison. So
and if you're making me pick between them and this, I will pick you.
Yeah, because I do.
Tough call, man.
Yeah, and it through that time I moved, and within 2 years we were doing assemblies, we were doing programs, and and we do Christian events as well as secular, which are completely non-religious in content in the schools. Yeah. So we're doing this.
Yeah, bully's just a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so during one of the outreaches that we were doing in Indiana, I get the call that my sister's on her last breath, and so.
And you were how old when this happened?
I was, this was only like 6 years ago.
Wow.
6 years ago. And so I go home. As soon as I crossed over into Virginia, my brother had called me at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, she's gone. And so he's like, you want to come to the hospital, which was in Tennessee? And I was like, no, I'll go to mom and dad's house. And so at mom and dad's house was her youngest daughter there. And so I pull up, and my mom and dad were all crying and on the couch, and my mom's like, Hannah doesn't know. And so I was like, mom's like, you need to tell her. And
you need to tell her.
Yeah, because she was just like, she was so broken.
Okay.
And so I'm there, and I look up, and Hannah's standing there in the,
a foyer living room.
In the living room. And she just runs to me, buries her head in my chest, and just starts crying for like an hour,
Yeah.
And didn't know what to say. So that happened while I was called. People were saying, Joe, where were you?
Yeah.
Your family needed you. And my mom and dad the whole time were so supportive. They're like, Joe, do what God has called you to do.
Wow.
And then...
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me stop. I have to ask, people that weren't related to you are like, how could you do that?
Yeah.
And why did they think that their opinion of what you're doing was relevant to the scenario?
That's exactly what I was thinking too. People were saying that they were throwing these stones, saying that I wasn't really a minister. I wasn't really.
Were they helping your family?
No.
Oh, but they were judging you for not helping their family while they were there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on, let me make sure I got this. I just want to make this sure. They were there. Like,
No. They weren't. They were present, not
in the community.
In the community.
So they were present in the community and had the ability to help.
Right.
But they cast stones at you because you were out doing ministry, because that made you a bad person because they say so?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that made sense. That makes no sense. Okay.
It doesn't, man.
That's why I don't take that stuff personally, because it's like they could have put a casserole. You know what I'm saying? Like they could have.
Exactly. And and here's what they didn't understand. My brother and I both were readily available. I would drop everything to come and help my family. Drive all the way from Michigan to Virginia. Yeah. Oftentimes, when they would need our help and stuff. But people didn't see that. All they saw was some guy who left his family to go do his own.
So they made a judgment call without all the facts?
Yeah.
People don't do that, man. It's not like
not at all.
It's not like that happens in our world.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. So that happened 6 years ago. You have the moment with your niece.
Yeah.
That must have been a pretty beautiful moment.
It was. It was tough because my sister had two just beautiful girls. Jasmine's quite a bit older. She had a child, and I just saw God moving, doing some really cool things in my family during that time. And, just like you were saying, that if the enemy isn't throwing things at you, you have to kind of like, okay, am I doing?
You're not really a threat.
You're not a threat.
Yeah,
right?
you don't punch something that doesn't bother you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what happened, the COVID thing hits, right? And
Where were you when that happened?
In Michigan.
Ooh.
And at this time, I'm preparing to get married to my amazing wife, Felicia.
Oh no! During COVID? Oh no!
Well, we're not getting married then, but we're working our way towards that, I think.
Okay.
And so I'm up there, and COVID hits, and so I think it was in 2021. So this is very recent stuff.
Yeah.
One of my mentors, got COVID. He passed away.
Oh.
Devastating.
Yeah.
And we're just all wrecked.
Yeah.
And about 5-6 months later, I visit my family. My mom was acting weird. She has COPD, and she was acting weird. I go up to Michigan. My brother calls me the next day and says, "Mom passed away."
No way.
So I'm like, I'm completely broken.
Yeah, she had a parent and a mentor.
Yeah.
How far apart was
It
that?
wasn't probably like 6 months.
Man.
And so I just gear up my car and I head down to Virginia, and my dad completely shuts down. And so I'm there with my dad, my brother. I don't want to get into the whole story because it'll take up too much time. But it's
you're doing good.
He was to the point where he couldn't take care of himself at all. And so
Your dad?
my dad.
Okay.
And I remember, I never forget this. He looks at me and he goes, I can't do it. I can't go to the funeral. I can't live by myself. Can I move in with you?
Okay.
I'm like, absolutely. I'll bring him to Michigan with me,
Yeah.
But we couldn't get him to take his meds. We couldn't get him to go to the hospital. He got really mad at me when I called the ambulance because he was just not doing well at all.
Yeah.
And we, those little oxygen testers that you put on your finger.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
it got to the point where his oxygen was below 48, and it wasn't reading it anymore. And
Wow.
so we convinced him to go, and I just had this moment with my dad at the hospital, making sure he was okay with the Lord. That was my priority,
Yeah.
And so I'm there with him, and he tears up. It's hard to see your dad, who is your hero,
Yeah.
be in such a vulnerable place.
Yeah.
That's totally relying on you.
Yeah.
And I remember he teared up and he said, "I just want you to know that I love you, and I couldn't do it without you." And that just completely melted me, man. And
Nice. What a moment.
so they shipped him to another hospital in Tennessee. And this was about
From Michigan?
From actually, I'm sorry, I'm so confusing here. This is when I went back down to Virginia.
Oh, okay. So
to
he's
be
in
with him.
Virginia
Yeah.
to Tennessee. Got it. All
And
right.
so they took him to Tennessee. At this point, they said it was COVID, and that I wasn't allowed. I was there the whole time with him at the other hospital, but all of a sudden I wasn't allowed to see him at the other one. And so me and my brother my brother was working so hard trying to get everything together. And then they call us. We go in there, full face mask. Your dad's in a coma. There's no hope. Do you want to?
No hope.
And so we had to make the decision because they're like, nothing that we're doing is working. He's slowly. And so they pulled the plug on him. And my dad passed away 11 days after my mom passed away.
So, well, they say when people really love each other, that tends to happen.
You know what
I mean?
When Scripture says that the two shall become one flesh, I have a better understanding of what that is because my dad, when my mom passed, my dad passed too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that going through a difficult traumatic experience without my wife, like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't. And she's like, yeah, what are you so hard headed? And there's
Right.
there's truth to that. But honestly, if I didn't know that was there, it'd be a whole nother ballgame.
For sure.
So that all happened in a 6-month time period, basically, between your mom, your dad, and your mentor.
Well, probably, about 6-7 months.
Holy smokes. Well, what happened next? Like you had to obviously process, but then what?
The thing is, I'm still processing. I don't think that that fully has sunk in fully, but
Really?
But through all of that, I truly, experienced, God's grace and His mercy and His love during that time. And I've seen God move just in my family. And since then, Alicia and I, we were married. And so now here we are. We're, kind of in this place of trying to decide, which direction, God is leading us in, as a new married couple.
Right. So what happened?
And so we, I started, she knew I was a missionary and minister, and I did the Right Choice messages in the schools.
Yeah.
And so she kind of knew what she was getting herself into.
Kind of. Okay.
And, but the interesting thing was, one of the big things that happened right after the whole COVID thing and all that was blowing over, my mom used to tell me all the time, every time I would call her, she's like, Joe, you're going to be a pastor. You're going to be a pastor. And I'm like, shut up. I don't want to be a pastor.
Yeah, right.
I know pastors.
Right.
And so, but my mentor who had passed away just started this church, or not started it, but he was kind of saving it from dying, basically. And so when he passed away, they approached my buddy Brad and said, hey, you're the guy. And he goes, no, I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm definitely not the guy. Right.
And so through much prayer, God led him there. And so Brad calls me up and he says, Joe, if I'm going down, you're going down too. And I said, wait a second. I don't know how to pray about this.
We got to go to break. All right. Holy smokes. Sit tight, like, share, and subscribe. Spiritual Warfare Unit. We'll be right back.
I'm really impressed with the teachings that Isaac has been bringing to us, as this is all based from Proverbs.
I like it because it's simple, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's very easy to understand and apply to your life.
It points out, my bad parts, and, but it's showing me how to do the good parts. And, I'm trying to apply that and, make a better life for myself, because I'm tired of where I've been.
It's impacted a lot of the guys as they continue to talk and ask questions after the meetings, as they speak to one another regarding the meeting and the messages and the topics that are being brought up, which are down-to-earth topics of situations and things that we live with on a day-to-day basis.
He takes the Bible and he breaks it down into simple terms and where you can understand. And like I said before, sometimes a lot of churches, even the Salvation Army, sometimes we start using these big words that people don't understand, like even saying someone got saved. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you say someone got saved? And it's accepting Jesus into your heart. So it's like words like that we use that people don't understand.
It's just very interesting how he points out, the different things of, the sin part, and then he comes back with the, how to make it better, and he just points it out. It's there. I didn't know all this stuff was in there, but now that he's pointing it out, it's like, wow, I guess if you really dig into the Bible, you find these things.
This is a daily moral standards that we can live by, that the teachings are coming from. And honestly, we can take verse by verse as what he's done, and pretty much he's done the hard work for us, and now laying it out so that we have an easier understanding.
There's some people who don't like to be in Bible classes, but this one seems to get their attention.
All right, welcome back to the Warriors Way UCAN Studios. I'm your host, Isaac Walsh, and I'm here with Joe Olinger. And as you can see, he's got a book that I'm going to attempt to rip later. Which we'll see. And then he'll probably do it. Anyways, so you are in this moment. You're going through all this stuff with the family. Your buddy says, if I'm pastoring, you're pastoring too.
Right.
And so the very words that came out of your mother's mouth came to pass.
Yeah. It was crazy because it was a month before my mom passed away that she saw this come into like this full circle.
So she got to see it.
She did. She did. Well, she heard about it, and because I told Brad, I was like, I'm not the guy.
Right.
And so we went before the board, and I told the board, I'm not a pastor. I've not done seminary. I don't.
Right.
I'm not ready. I've done ministry and I've done speaking and all this stuff. And they're like, well, that's probably the reason why you're the guy. And so And I'm telling you, man, at that point, my wife is a teacher in the school. She teaches special needs kids in Clio. And so they kind of connected her into the children's program. And so we went from 2 people to about 70 people in the church within this. And this is going on our 3rd year.
And that's where you're at now, right?
Yeah.
And then a mutual friend, we hook up, and Bob's your uncle, and here we are.
There we are. Yep, absolutely,
and
man.
That story is incredible. Like, looking at you could get the bullying thing. Because I have to tell you, when we first met, and my buddy's like, oh, yeah, this guy, he breaks bricks and things. I'm thinking, a defensive lineman.
Right.
And you walk in, and you're as tall as I am.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like,
5 foot nothing.
right. And you're like, hey, you know where the weight room is? I'll check it. That's not what you said. But, like, right, you come in there, and I'm like, really? And,
Right.
and then your personality just come out, and I'm like, oh, my God, I love this dude, right? And then we just hit it off, and I'm a joker and a laugher, and I just love getting stories. That story is incredible. And the thing that's crazy to me is a lot of times you'll get stories where it's like, oh, I screwed up when I was younger, and then God got a hold of me and I did this, right?
Right.
You were like there the whole time. I mean, and if you could give somebody some advice, especially if they're in their teenage years, and the cool kids and the drugs and the drinking, and I mean that all ends negatively. Right. I've never met an alcoholic that loved his life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you could give those kids some advice, like what would it be that you'd want them to know? Like why your show would matter.
Well, because I think that no matter what people say, you're special, you have value, you have purpose. And, everything that we do in life, is really pivoted on our mindset. What you think affects how you feel. What you feel affects what you do. And what you do can determine how far you go in life. And here's the thing. Just because, your value is not determined by what others say about you. Your worth isn't determined by what other people do, but what you choose to believe has the ability to hold you back or to launch you in your future. And you know what? Those negative things that people may say about you, that make you feel bad about yourself, that make you feel inadequate, make you feel lesser than, none of those things are ever true. Nothing that people say that tears your character down is ever true. That you have value, you have purpose. That there was a speaker, and I ripped him off for one of my assemblies, but he took a $5 bill and he said, how much is this $5 bill? And all the kids are like, $5. He goes, so you're telling me I could take this $5 bill and go down to the Walmart, and if something after taxes is $5, you're telling me I could take this and I could actually purchase that? And they're like, yeah. He goes, and he wads it up. He goes, how about if I wadded it up and I threw it on the ground and I stepped on it? Maybe it's only worth $4 now. I'm like, no, it's still worth $5. How about if I wadded it up, threw it down, stomped on it, spat on it, and threw it in the trash? And he's like, no, it's still $5. And he goes, how about if I even ripped it in half? No, it's still $5. You can still tape it.
Just tape it back together.
And he was like, the reason why this $5 bill has value is some people many years ago placed value on this note. And no matter what happens to this note, it does not change its value.
Right.
Don't tell me just because people have thrown you away, stepped on you, spat on you, and tore you apart, that changes your value.
Right.
Your value is always there. Nothing can change that value, but it's so important to have the right mindset and to knowing that your value does not change no matter what people do to you. So, man, hang on to that. Set your goals and dreams. Work hard every day. Treat people with kindness, and you'll go very far in life.
I find that the best way to live. People cannot destroy your character if you don't let them destroy it. You choose not to change just because people attack you. And I found that when they're attacking you, it's always on pieces of information, right?
Right.
The other thing that I find really interesting is this, just a caveat on what you're saying, because I'm a huge fan of everything that you're saying, is that if I say something and you disagree with me and you attack me, what's interesting to me isn't that you found something. There's a story. I was talking with a person, a family member, and I was telling them all the things I was doing in ministry, which there's a bunch of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's one thing they didn't like. They said, "Oh, that's terrible."
Mm.
And I said, "It's interesting. It's not interesting that you found something about me you didn't like. I'm not perfect.
Right.
What's interesting is you were looking for it,
Right.
because that tells me
Wow. Yeah.
what you were trying to find in the first place."
Right.
Right? And normally the attack is to bolster them because your actions of doing things is pricking their heart. And so
Right.
they got to find a reason to make it okay that they're not doing it.
Right.
And I find that stuff.
That's yeah.
And I'm like, that's my power. You don't get to take that from me. That's
Exactly.
mine. It's also mine to give. And you don't get to have it. It's mine. And you don't get to
Absolutely.
dictate if I'm good or bad. That's my choice. My choice is make those things, not yours. And you can dislike it. That's one of the options.
Right.
You could also like it.
Exactly.
That's also one of the options. He chose not to, and I accept that. I accept the fact that we disagree. And you know, if you accept the fact you disagree with somebody, they get mad about that sometimes.
They do, especially nowadays.
Right? How dare you not get mad that I'm mad? Well, I don't like getting mad. Well, you should do it anyways. Okay. I'm not going to do it.
You're welcome to your own opinion,
Yeah.
unless your opinion's different than mine.
Yeah, and then if it's different than mine, then you have to change it because I said so.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So you actually tape 2 books together.
Yeah.
That's what the
'Cause I
green
can't
tape
find-
is for.
Can't find phone books anywhere, so you have to get creative around
Yeah.
here.
They made this thing called the
internet.
internet.
Google.
The Googles.
Usually we'll
Why do
this.
old people always start with the word the?
I don't know.
Yeah,
The,
instead of just Google, it's the Google.
The Google.
I don't know. It's an old person thing, and I find it funny.
the phone book.
The phone book, right? So, all right. So I'm going to prove that this is a real phone book. Now, notice that these are the two.
I don't even know what they
two
are.
books together.
My wife literally found those on the side of the street. So
All right. So let's see what the street. Now I want to know because I'm just.
it's probably some. It had computer like
All right,
CD-ROMs.
it looks
or something.
computery.
Yeah, it's a nerd
CD-ROM book, which
It's a nerd book. You want it?
Dude. Designing and planning a Microsoft Exchange Server 2003.
Ooh, we got to rip that thing.
Yeah. Huge no. All right. Here we go. So here we go. So, I cannot do it. And I think I just pulled a finger muscle.
Right. Do some finger or whatever. So just to kind of give you an idea, I don't ever just rip things just to rip them. When we're in the schools, what we'll do is we'll get a kid or we'll get one of the adults up here and we'll say, all right, so we want you to try to rip this phone book in half, right?
Yeah.
And so, like before you do that, we got to show you how to do it.
Yeah.
So first of all, you've got to be intense. We're trying to get them riled up and stuff, and the kids get into it. And then you have to get the coolness factor on. So we'll put some goofy glasses on them or whatever. And
There you go.
kids are going crazy. And then they try to rip the phone book and they can't do it.
Right.
So the message in the schools is, this guy, he had the intensity factor down. He looked like everything was cool on the outside, but he was still unable to rip the phone book. And sometimes in life, you look like everything is okay on the outside, but deep down you're going through some things, through some difficult times. And you know what? Sometimes you're going to need help. You're going to have to say, hey, listen, I'm going through stuff that I can't make it alone, and I'm going to need someone. We're built for community, right? We need other people around us, and then we need to be the kind of friend that will step beside them and say, you know what? I may not have the answers for you, but I can be a good listener. And by doing that, you help them rip and tear through all those obstacles in life, just like this. See if I can do this. It's hard to do.
Oh my Lord! It actually popped. Oh my gosh.
Can I take the...
Yeah, take it off. You don't need to hear me make sounds in your voice. Oh my gosh. I am not shaking this dude's hand again. Oh my Lord, I want my fingers. It looks like he's ripping it in half. He already ripped it in half, and now he's ripping it in half. He's ripped. All right. This is stressing me out a little bit watching this. Look at that. Look at it. He's got like 3 more papers to break, and then it's over. Oh, there it goes. Oh, my Lord.
Okay, we're not done yet.
I don't want to do this. Look at that. That's like 200 pages at least. Look at that. He just keeps pulling it apart like a log. You know, you don't even need a log splitter. You just have Joe come over and pop them apart for you. It's no problem. I'm going to make you keep laughing so you can't do it.
I don't think I've ever struggled
This
with
much?
a book.
Oh, it's perfect. Oh, thank God. And for our show, the man that rips books will not rip a book. It's all good. Who cares? It's great. It's not that I don't believe you. You don't actually have to finish it. You're stressing me out. Now you're going to do it on principle of the matter, right? Dude, his forearm's got to be burning right now. Uh-oh. 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 Got him, boys. Woo! Oh, okay.
Brutal.
Look at this. Look at this. Dave. This is ridiculous.
Those.
Yeah, you got some water over there, and I feel
do.
like you earned it. Oh my gosh.
Those are tougher phone books or books than phone books.
Woo, just get some water here. I'm going to finish up. So check this out. And the fact that you do this for kids and anti-bullying is just amazing. And the fact that you've done this since you were young. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say to that. You could, unless I used a chainsaw, I wouldn't do that. You know, Joe Olinger, the human chainsaw. That is just ridiculous. And the fact you do this with schools is really great. That's why we're in talks working together, because I love your mental space. The rest of it's just gravy.
Yeah.
You know, but I love bringing people hope. That is my most favorite thing in the whole world. And you were really kind to come on. And if people wanted to have you come out to their school or event, they just go to pointofbreak.org and do what?
Well, they can just I've got videos and testimonials and things on there.
Yeah.
A contact page. They could just go there, contact me, feel free. Yeah. And man, it's not hard at all to get me to come to your school.
All right, so. And for the record, if you're watching this on his website, and this is posted on there, he was breathing heavily, which made me feel better, even though I'm chubby. All right, man, did it go fast?
Oh, man, it did, brother.
Did you have fun?
I did. A lot of fun, dude.
I told you. You want to come back, right?
Absolutely.
We had an absolutely wonderful time. Thank you so much for coming into the Warriors Way at Spiritual Warfare Unit at UCAN Studios. Help us help others. We will see you next time. Do you have a nonprofit in your area that's doing a lot of work that people should know about? Feel free to contact Spiritual Warfare Unit at 810-715-9319, and we would love to have them on to see what good they're doing in the community and find out their story. Thank you so much.
Spent so much time believing the lies. I knew I wasn't meant to live this way. But my walls came down when your love shone through. Now my life will never be the same. You love me too much to let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name. You break every chain, oh Lord. 'Cause you are above every name, Jesus. Oh, you set me free. Now I live my life singing songs of praise, proclaiming everything you've done for me. 'Cause my walls came down when your love shone through. And now my life will never be the same. 'Cause you love me too much to let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name. You break every chain, oh Lord. 'Cause you are above every name, Jesus. Oh, you set me free. Jesus, there's freedom in your name. You break every chain, oh Lord. 'Cause you are above every name, Jesus. Oh, you set me free, set me free. There's freedom in your name. You break There's freedom.